My name is Kathy, and I'm here today to share something that I'm truly passionate about. It's something called cultural intelligence. Now, before I start, I'd like to share a little story about me so that you can get to know me a little better. So, when someone doesn't know my last name, just by looking at me, they will usually always wonder what my race or ethnicity is. Well, I'm culturally Chinese, but because I wasn't born with the stereotypical features, and also because I live in Malaysia, I've been mistaken as a Malay my entire life, right? Here, you can see a photo of me and my family. Any guesses which one is me? I can hear it, yeah. I'm the one in the middle and in the yellow. As you can see, I had darker skin compared to everyone else. And when I would go out with my family, I would look like the adopted kid to strangers. In high school, I remember that all my closest friends were actually Malay because I feel like they've accepted me as one of their own. I remember going to Chinese restaurants and the Chinese owners and waiters would speak to me in Malay instead of Chinese. In fact, one year, I remember I was so afraid of eating out in public during the fasting month because I was so afraid of being judged or looked at, even though I wasn't doing anything wrong. While I was being treated like another culture other than my own outside, at home I was still very much influenced by my parents' cultural background. So I remember I had this recent conversation with a Latin American coworker, and we were just sharing about our cultural backgrounds. And I told her casually, in my culture, my parents don't usually say I love you. In fact, we don't even hug. And she was shocked, and she looked at me and she said, then how do you show affection? How do you know that they love you? And I thought about it, and I said to her, well, they ask me if I've eaten, and then they cook for me. How many of you can relate to this? Exactly. Well, yeah, half the people in the room, right? So because I was exposed to all these different cultures growing up, that made me so passionate about this, and it led me to what I'm doing today professionally, and also the topic which I'm about to share. So I think that the way we get around the world today is truly amazing. With just a credit card and a passport, we can literally get anywhere. With these two items, I can go to the airport right after this, and I will be able to enter 160 out of the 200 countries in the world today with no issue. This freedom is a new luxury for us. And can you imagine if our grandparents or great-grandparents just hopping on a flight at any time during our age? Probably not. So what a great time to be alive, right? But here's the thing. This new luxury comes at a price. And the price I'm referring to is not the price of expensive flight tickets or the price of insanely high currency exchange rates. The price I'm referring to is cultural differences. The price of not knowing simple cultural differences can lead to some of the most extremely costly consequences. I truly believe that knowing and becoming aware of these simple cultural differences can solve some of the world's biggest problems in our society today. In fact, we'll do it right now, today. During this talk, I'll be sharing some of the easiest techniques for you to become more culturally aware today. So going back to traveling, the first thing when you travel to a new country, and the first thing that usually hits you, it's culture shock. And what culture shock really is it's a feeling when you experience a new culture that is not accepted or familiar to you. And in fact, culture shock comes in 4 stages. The first stage is the honeymoon stage. This is when you experience a culture for the first time and you're excited about everything. Like when I go to Japan and I see how everyone is so polite, and I tell to myself, I could get used to this life, right? The next stage is the frustration stage. And it gets challenging here, like from language barriers to communication. Like I had problem ordering food in simple restaurants, right? And the third stage is the adjustment stage. And this is where it gets better. This is when you start interacting with the locals. It's like when I have international friends here, and they start getting used to eating spicy food. That's amazing, right? And the fourth stage is the acceptance stage. In this stage, it doesn't mean that this new culture that you're experiencing is 100% truly understood. In fact, it's completely opposite. It's the realization that how two cultures can actually live in peace and harmony without sacrificing each other's beliefs or values. And here's my favorite example. It's us here in Malaysia. We are the definition of a melting pot of different cultures. We just celebrated our 62nd Independence Day last week in unity, right? And you guys here sitting in the audience today, you guys are probably the experts in navigating different cultures because we grew up with it. We have this surrounded by different cultures our entire lives. So what if I tell you we can actually extend this knowledge to include other cultures and countries outside of Malaysia? What would that look like? Now first, I want to dissect what culture really means. What culture really means in this case? Well, the biggest study ever done on culture is by a Dutch researcher called Gert Hofstadter. And he said this in the late 60s. He said that culture is a collective programming of the mind, which separates one group from another. To me, personally, culture is like the lenses which we use to look out to the world. It's like we're wearing a pair of invincible glasses every single day, and we don't realize that it's there. It's like fish in the water. The fish doesn't know that it's in the water until you take it out. We don't know that we are in our own culture until we're removed from it. So now I want us to do a simple exercise with me. It's just 1 minute. If you have something in your hand right now, just put it aside. And I want you to bring two of your hands just next to your eyes, like you're holding a pair of invincible glasses. Right, exactly. Now, imagine just one of the most significant things about your culture to you. What is the one thing that is the most important about your culture to you? Picture that in your head and channel it into this invincible pair of glasses that you're holding. Now, slowly take it off, right? And I want you to turn to your neighbor and exchange your glasses with them and put your neighbor's glasses back on. Exactly. Thank you. Now, does the world still look the same with your neighbor's pair of glasses? Probably not. Your neighbor's cultures, beliefs, values, everything might be very different than your own. This simple exercise, which you just did, it's something called cultural awareness. Cultural awareness is the ability for us to step back and just know that other cultures' beliefs, values, and perspective is very different than our own. Perspective, it's the whole theme of today's talk, right? So I want to share things that I find accepted and familiar to me in my culture. For example, like queuing up. This is what a normal queue looks like to me, with decent space in between and no one is touching each other. And this is how it looks like, for example, in UK as well. It's actually illegal to jump queue in UK and you get fined if you're caught. But will it look the same in other cultures? Probably not. For example, in France, French people actually think that, queuing up lowers their dignity and pride. So in France, it might look something more like this. People jump queue all the time. Other cultures might need a bit more motivation and force, like that. Right? And now, lastly, this is my favorite example. This is true, and this is in Thailand. This is how they queue up in Thailand. Can you imagine if we do that here and we put our slippers at the LRT? People will think that we're crazy, but this is they're accepted and familiar. We're all doing the same thing, just in a very different way, right? How about language and communication? Italians are known to be the most expressive. They use their body language and hand gestures when it comes to communication, right? And they're very long sentences for very little meaning. And it's the same in UK as well, UK English, right? If you want to ask someone for help or you want to bother someone, in UK you would say, "Excuse me, May I please interrupt you for a second, right? That's 10 words. 10 words. How will we say it in Malaysia? Who knows? How will we say it? I hear something, yes. We say just one word. We say a, or oi. It's not rude. It's just something that we're used to here. How about this? If you want someone to repeat themselves, UK, you would say, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Would you mind repeating yourself? That's 15 words. 15 words. Who has time for that? How will we say in Malaysia if you want someone to repeat themselves? Exactly. We say, huh? Just one word. That's something that's so unique about us that I love and I take so much pride in. So how do we actually become aware of other cultures, respecting them, while maintaining our own unique identity? We develop something called cultural intelligence, or CQ. Cultural intelligence is our ability to function effectively in a culturally diverse setting. And people often confuse this with EQ, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is your ability to manage your own or others' emotions, right? But it's completely different. It's the biggest myth and it's the biggest lie. Why? Because emotional intelligence does not set out to extend across one's borders. It's very much culturally bound. So if you take someone who is very highly emotionally intelligent here, you take them and you place them in Russia, now the cues are very different and they might not be able to function the same. Why is this so important to me? Well, today I work in a company with 55 different nationalities. 55. It's like if you take people from 1/4 of the earth, you take them and you place them in the office here in KL. That's what it looks like to me every single day, right? And on top of that, I manage the company's localization project, which means that not only do I have to expand to new language markets, I also have to make sure that our products are localized according to each country's behaviors and interests. That's a lot. It's complicated, right? But it really doesn't have to be. It just needs to come from an understanding background, which is why here today, I'm going to share 3 steps to become more culturally intelligent today. And the first step is knowing your own culture. When people ask me, I want to learn a new culture, and they usually say, okay, go look at the other culture. No, I would like to take a slightly different approach. I like to say, look at your own first. Look at your own and realize what's important to you and what's not. May help you realize that it might be different for other people, right? For example, being on time. Being on time in Malaysia, it's not so serious, right? We have a term called Malaysian timing. So being late, it doesn't really require an apology here. However, being late in South Korea is a sign of huge disrespect. So knowing what's not important in your culture may help you realize that it's really important for others. The second thing is being curious about other cultures, having curiosity. Everyone here, you might say that you have an international friend, but how much do you really know them, right? There's a concept called iceberg culture, and it says that only 10% of culture is visible to the eye. What you eat, how you talk, and how you dress, that's only 10%. The 90% that's hidden below is deep culture, and you'll never know this until you have curiosity, you learn about the culture. Now, based on my experience, I like to sum up cultures into just 2 main groups, just 2 groups, very easy for you to remember. And I like to call this group the fruit culture, right? Fruit, yes. Then the first fruit, obviously, is the Malaysian favorite. It's the durian, right? The durian is soft on the outside, but it has a seed in the middle. That's hard. So this group of people might be very warm and friendly when you first meet them, but then, when you try to get to know the person, they have a heart center, and it's really hard to get to know the real person. And this group of people can be found in countries like the US or Japan. The second group, it's more like the coconut. The coconut has a hard outer shell, but is soft inside. So this group of people might seem cold and unfriendly when you first meet them, but once you break through that hard outer shell, they might be some of the most loyal friends you have. Now, I want you to try and do this today and see if you can group your friends into these two different groups. And go ahead and call your friend a durian and see their reaction, right? Now, lastly, step number 3 is challenge yourself to see the world in the eyes of others. It's very similar to the invisible glasses exercise, which we just did. But how many of you realize that you are still wearing your neighbor's glasses? Yeah, we forget about it because it's not visible to us. And subconsciously, we kind of exchange it back already and we put our original glasses back on. So the key here is to becoming aware of these swap backs in our daily lives. So next time, before you hop on a plane, just remember these 3 things: knowing your own culture, becoming curious about others, and see the world in the eyes of others. Thank you.